ॐ गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं मामहे कविं कवीनाम् उपमश्रवस्तवं ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणां ब्रह्मणस्पद आनशृण्वन्नोदिभिस्सीदसादनं श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती दीनामवित्रेवतु महासरस्वती नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वर गुरुः साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। गुरुवे सर्वलोकानां विशेषे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। पिन्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। देवीं वाचमजनयन्त देवाः तां विश्वरूपा पशवो वदन्ति सा नो मन्द्रेषु मूर्जन्दुहाना धेनुर्वागस्मानुपतिष्ठितैतु व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्ते पौत्रमकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकदातं तपोनिधिं व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः। शिवशक्तिसमारम्भां भास्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मश्रीनाथपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। श्रीललितामहात्रिपुरसुन्दरी समेत श्रीचन्द्रमौलीश्वराय नमः। श्रीकाञ्चीकामकोटिपीठाधिपतिजगद्गुरु श्रीशङ्कराचार्य श्रीचरणयोः प्रणामाः। स्वस्ति श्रीमदखिलभूमण्डलालङ्कारत्रयत्रिंशत्कोटिदेवता सेवित श्रीकामाक्षी देवी सनाथ श्रीमदेकाम्रनाथ श्रीमहादेवी सनाथ श्रीहस्तिगिरिनाथ साक्षात्कारपरमाधिष्ठान सत्यव्रतनामाङ्कित काञ्ची दिव्यक्षेत्रे शारदामठसुस्थितानाम् अतुलितसुधारसमाधुर्य कमलासन कामिनी धम्मिल्लसम्फुल्लमल्लिका मालिका निष्यन्दमकरन्दझरी सौवस्तिकवाग्निकुम्भ विजृम्भणानन्द तुन्दलितिमनीषिमण्डलानाम् अनवरताद्वैतविद्या विनोदरसिकानां निरन्तरालङ्कृतीकृत शान्तिदान्ति भूम्नां सकलभुवनचक्रप्रतिष्ठापक श्रीचक्रप्रतिष्ठा विख्यात यशोऽलङ्कृतानां निखिलभाषण्डषण्डकण्ठकोद्घाटनेन विशदीकृतवेदवेदान्तमार्गशण्वतप्रतिष्ठापकाचार्याणां श्रीमत्परमहंसपरिव्राजकाचार्यवर्य श्रीजगद्गुरु श्रीमच्छङ्करभगवत्पादाचार्याणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमच्चन्द्रशेखरेन्द्र सरस्वती संयमीन्द्राणाम् अधिष्ठाने सिंहासनाभिषिक्त श्रीमज्जयेन्द्र सरस्वती संयमीन्द्राणाम् अन्तेवासिवर्य श्रीमच्छङ्कर विजयेन्द्र सरस्वती श्रीपादानां च चरणनयोः सप्रश्रियं साञ्जलिबन्धं च नमस्कुर्मः. Incidentally, before we go to the depth of Mundaka Upanishad, I am organizing a class for my Veda class students because we are having the festive season. I'm teaching to the four young kids, very young kids, aged between 9 and 11 and 13, 9 and 11, 13, yeah, how to do a puja on their own. So the class will focus on puja structure, the basic mantra of Dhyana Shloka, Sankalpa, then Kalasha Puja, Ganta Puja, everything, Asana Puja. It might be helpful to all of you if in case you want to attend remotely or watch what is happening. I'm planning to record it and put it on YouTube. It might be helpful since you are having a festival season, Varalakshmi Vridam and Ganpati festival, everything, right? And if God's grace people help, then the script also will be ready and available, which we will share.
When is it, Shiva?
Both the Veda students are their moms are talking to each other because they have to come on site. It's a more than 3-hour session. Most likely next Wednesday is what I hope.
Oh, great.
Sonalji, I know you can't put the video on, but do you still have the question about the whole Shakta principles and where the philosophy is, the 6 schools of philosophy?
No, you resolved it last time.
Okay, so if you are interested, I could give a little bit more towards the end of this session. I'll first finish the 3 mantras that I have planned today to cover on the Mundaka Upanishad so that we move forward. And then we will switch back to a little bit of Sat and Asat if in case that is of interest to Sanjay. And prior to that, I will give some more clarifications to you on a little bit of confusing aspect of when we talk of Veda, we talk of Sri Vidya Upasana, we talk of schools of philosophies. So I will make one more attempt to crystallize things. If it gets more confusing, then you just, like the Men in Black, take the pen and just erase your memory. Yeah. All right. So we finished the first mantra of the second Mundaka, second chapter last time. Correct? So we will go to the second mantra of the second chapter of the second Mundaka. Yadarchimad yadanubhyonucha yasmin loka nihita lokinascha tadetaksharam brahmasa pranastaduvangmanah tadetatsatyam tadamritam tadvadhavyam vidhi. So if this has to be split into, you all have the script, right? Because I've shared it last time. So splitting each of these into simple words is yad archimad, yad anubhyonucha, yasmin loka nihita lokinascha. Yad archimad, yad anubhyonucha, yasmin loka nihita lokinascha tad etad aksharam brahma sa pranas tad uvan manah tad etat satyam tad amritam tad vedhavyam saumya vidhi. These are the individual words in the entire mantra. Yat means what, obviously. Archimat is luminous. Anubhyah means than the atoms. Api is even. Anu is subtler. Asmin means in what. Lokaha is the worlds. Lokinaha is those that live in the worlds. Cha means and. Nihitaha means fixed. Tat means that. Etat means this. Aksharam is referring to the imperishable. Brahma is Brahman. Saha refers to he. Pranaha, we know that. Pranas. Va api means also. Vak is speech. Manaha, mind. Satyam means true. Amritam is referring to the immortal aspect. Vedhavyam should be struck. Manasa, by the mind. Saumya means, oh good looking youth. Vidhi, strike at. Vedhavyam means should be struck. Vidhi means strike at. So one simple piece of advice is when you are translating Sanskrit, you cannot just take a word and go to dictionary and try to do a literal meaning of the word. In Sanskrit, it is well known that you have the meaning of the word getting interpreted based on the context. So the context is extremely important. So you can't just take the literal word as it is and say, hey, what are you talking about? Because the same word in different contexts could mean different things, which is where the confusion starts for Western people, because for them this grammatical structure is not something that they are used to unless you are an expert in Sanskrit and you have studied the scriptures well. So the summary of this mantra is: what is luminous, what is subtler than the subtlest, and in which all the worlds and those that live in them are fixed, is this imperishable Brahman. That is prana, that is also the speech and the mind. Remember last time when I talked about the Brahman, the Purusha living in the cavities of the heart, and we went into the discussion about the heart. I said, don't take the physical location. Think about the five aspects of prana that we discussed, which is spread all over the body, right? Similarly, when we refer to the Brahman, it's also there in the speech. Brahman is also there in the mind. And that is true and that is immortal. That doesn't change. This is the crux of our system. And a huge difference between ours and Western philosophy. We believe that the soul departs, leaves the body. Body is the packaging material. That's why we don't focus too much on the Panchabhutas or the physical aspect, the gross body. Our focus is entirely on the subtle body. When we talk of subtle body, it means these are the elements: prana, vak, and the various softwares that operate the hardware, then mind. These are all part of the subtle body. Correct? You're now able to make the connection, correct? Okay. So that is true. That doesn't change. The reason why we don't focus as much on the subtle body is getting into the Sat Asat philosophy again. It is available now. It changes shape, it changes form, attributes, and then it dies. It doesn't continue. Whereas the soul, that we say prana, doesn't die. It moves from one loka to another loka. So when the mantra says, "Oh, good-looking youth," who is being referred to here?
Shonaka.
Correct. Who is telling Shaunaka this? Huh? Sage Angirasa. Correct. So we need to keep reminding ourselves that this whole Mundaka Upanishad is a commentary between Sage Angirasa and Shaunaka. So Sage Angirasa is telling Shaunaka, "How good-looking youth, strike with thy mind," means with your mind, "at that which should be struck." It's a very beautiful analogy here. Strike with thy mind, with your mind, at that which should be struck. Can anybody say what is the meaning of this sentence?
I think he's telling him to strike the ignorance.
One way of saying that, yes. Any other interpretation?
The purpose is to understand realization.
Okay. Any other purpose? Any other interpretation? So the idea that is being conveyed here is the mind should be concentrated upon the Brahman. In the preceding mantra, we said the Brahman has to be realized. Correct? We have established that very clearly. Now there should not be any confusion. Experience versus realize. In this and the subsequent two mantras, the focus is on how to achieve that realization. The process of realization is described. Make sense? So the first step is focus or concentrate upon the Brahman. And you concentrate using what? See, when we talk of these things, right? Do this, do that, etc. General in our day-to-day life. I mean, I'm speaking of myself. There could be exceptions. We just take those words for granted. A lot of those words that we use in a sentence is taken for granted. We never stop, pause, and go ask very difficult questions to understand the exact meaning of those words, right? So it's very easy to say, concentrate upon the Brahman. The proof of the pudding is you must, when you sit down to actually do that, oh, then you say, oh, I don't know how to do it. What am I supposed to do? I just nodded my head in the class saying that, oh, okay, concentrate on the Brahman. That was so easy to understand. Common sense. Common sense becomes a difficult sense when you sit down for execution because you haven't paid attention to the details. So let us pause and ask those questions to make sure that we are aware of the minute details that you need to know in executing this. So, who can respond saying, what does it mean? What does it involve in saying concentrate upon the Brahman? One word.
The breath.
Good try. Isn't the breath indirectly the prana and the Brahman? So, what do you need to concentrate on the Brahman? See how difficult it is? And that's where you need to flush and repeat over and over again some words that you have already used, because when it comes to the right moment, you need to know the key word. The key word is the mind. Mind. When you say concentrate, we are talking about the mind. We are not talking about the chitta, the intellect, and all the other elements that we talked about. We concentrate with the mind. So Brahman is one element, mind is the other element. You control your mind, don't let it distract, bring the focus, and the target is the Brahman. Are we clear? Padmaja is not in agreement, it seems.
No, it's right. I was just thinking how to concentrate on the mind.
So I will give you one other piece of advice, and don't feel that I'm condescending or uh, coming with an attitude. I'm saying this out of sincere concern and interest. When we talk about a subject, or when we are getting into the details of one particular aspect, try not to jump 4 steps ahead, right? So, which means if we are now just talking about the mind and the Brahman, just focus on that aspect, grasp everything that is being talked about that, and then come out of it and say, okay, I understood these two, but then what about this? And that what about this could be, how do I actually execute? Or what will happen if I execute? Those questions can pause. If you adopt this principle, a lot of these jalebi type of conversations will become clearer, simple. And I'm saying this because of some of the experiences that I have in other classes, other sessions, also in my counseling sessions. I'm seeing this as a very common issue amongst many people. So right now, just focus on those two things and move from that focus topic one to the next, to the next, to the next. There can be a break that we can take and say, okay, we learned about 6 or 7 things. How do these all connect? And then automatically things will fall in place. But if you miss the crux of the essence of the word or the definitions, then you will never be able to reach an answer to how. The how, what, when, etc. can be later. So here we are talking about Brahman means the prana, right? You use the mind to concentrate on the Brahman. You don't know what that Brahman is because you're going to realize it. If you know, means moment you use the word know, what are we doing? We talked about it last class. Don't forget. Moment we use the word know, what does it mean? We are coming back to the
Experiences.
huh?
You have experienced or you have lived that moment.
Correct.
Seen.
Correct. We are coming back to the Panchabhutas, the sensory organs boundary. So imagine now how we are going from one to the other. I hope it is now becoming easier. You want to use the mind, the subtle component, to focus on the Brahman. That will come through realization. So if you will not know what Brahman is, you will realize it. If the moment you say, yeah, you explain to me and I know what Brahman is, it's only a very superficial statement. The moment you say no means you are bound by the gross levels. I want to see, I want to feel, I want to hear, I want to touch, right? I want to taste. This is beyond that. Are we now clear? Don't be too worried, Padmaja. It's okay.
Actually,
ah.
the word is anubhuti.
Correct.
The
Yes.
level at which you are able to experience it.
Yes.
In fact, and lot of it written in Kandar Anubhuti, especially the last one, Guruvai, Varuvai, that one, no?
Yes. He
has experienced and there is an ecstatic state about it.
Yes. And unless you get to the ecstatic state or bliss, you will not be getting into the zone of realization. So I'm just trying to connect the two again. It's a very wrong day to give this example, but nevertheless, I'm going to give it. For those who drink, or at least you see people who are drunk, can you converse with them when they are high? You cannot. They are on a different plane altogether. When they get grounded, they may not even remember what they talked and what they did and what they said. That's a state of elevated state that person is. So you can achieve that elevated state through alcohol, through opium, or through many other things which we don't want to get into the details. But you can also get into that elevated state through sadhana. In all the three, we are talking about the state of mind. Correct? And that is where it gets connected to the chitta, the consciousness. The state of mind, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, and Turiya state. So that elevated state is called Turiya state. Is everything falling in place now? No? Yes? Okay, great. So, let's go to the next mantra. Dhanur Gruhitvaupanisadam. Dhanur Gruhitvaupanisadam. Mahastram Sharam. Hyupasanishitam. Sandhayita. Dhanur Gruhitvaupanisadam. Mahastram Sharam. Hyupasanishitam. Sandhayita. Ayamya tad bhavagatena chetasa lakshyam tadevaksharam somya vidhi. You already know the meaning of somya and vidhi, right? So the individual words are dhanur, grihita, aupanishadam, mahastram, sharam, hya, upasanishitam, sandhahita, Ayamya tad bhavagatena chetasa lakshyam tadevaksharam soumya vidhi. These are the individual words. Lakshyam means, all of you must know, right? What is the meaning of Lakshyam? Huh? Yeah, target. Yeah, target. In this case, when we are saying target, it's a target. Goal is also correct, but in this context, it is target. So, Aksharam is referring to what? Correct. Imperishable. Try to connect Aksharam with the imperishable and try to connect immortal with Amritam. So, Upanishadam means as prescribed in the Upanishads. Mahastram means, Astram means weapon. Mahastram means the mighty weapon. And one more piece of suggestion. If you really want to unlock, unravel, and understand many of these things, we use the term Mahalakshmi, Mahapurusha. It is with a reason. It is trying to make you aware of the grand scale. Will you call the cosmos as a big or grand? Massive. You won't call the cosmos as big. Oh, it's something very big. No, it's beyond big. So keep in mind whenever you talk of Shakti or Purusha or Shiva, we're talking of that scale, which is also one of the reasons why we do what we do in Sri Vidya Upasana. What do we do? Panchopachara. Do you remember what I trained there? Lam Prathivyatmane Gandham Kalpayami. We never say Samarpayami. Correct? Which means we are offering this whole earth as Gandham to you. But it is her own stuff that we are offering her. So we can't Samarpayami, right? So I'm imagining that I'm giving you the entire earth as Gandham. That is the grandeur of scale. So keep that in mind. So Mahastram means mighty weapon. Danuhu means bow, the bow and arrow. Grihitva means taking. Upasa means by constant worship. You ask the question, no, how? You are getting the answers here. By constant worship. Please underline that word. Nishitam means sharpened. Sharam means arrow. So when you're talking of bow and arrow, in Hindi, what do we call that as? And Tir, Ban, and Dhanu. Right? So the analogy being given here is like a bow and arrow. So slowly, don't jump. Don't worry about when will I get liberation, how will I get liberation, will I get liberation. That can all wait after the class. Right now, in this mantra, focus on trying to understand what is being referred to as the arrow, what is being referred to as the bow, what is referred as a target, and what is it that you are asked to do. Right? So Nishitam means sharpened, Sharam means arrow, which means a sharpened arrow. Why they could have just said arrow, no? Instead, they are saying sharpened arrow. Sandhayita means must be fixed. Again, Somya is, oh, good looking youth. Tad bhavagatena, which means absorbed in. And understand why this kind of a fine definition is being offered here. You can take the bow and arrow and say, okay, yeah, I've got the sharp arrow, I've got the best bow, blah blah blah. Everything is there. I'm holding also it correct. I'm also trained in how to release the bow. Everything. Do you believe all this is enough to hit the target?
First thing, you should know how to use it, and second thing, you should have the right focus or concentration. Look at the target, aim it correctly, and then
So the key word is again concentration, meaning we are coming back to mind. It has to be so sharp that you cannot afford even a momentary distraction. A momentary distraction can result in your hand shaking and you lose the ability to hit the target precisely. And when you are talking of these things, you cannot compromise or accept mediocrity. Yeah, I didn't hit the target, but I was close to the target. No, still, no. Either you are on target or you're not. It's a binary situation, which is why they're harping on sharpened arrow, constant worship, because these things don't come just by sitting 2 or 3 days and say, I meditated and now I know how to meditate. It takes years and years to literally obtain that level of perfection that is required to achieve your goal. So, constant worship. Tad bhavagatena means absorbed. That is another aspect. In Tamil, we say no, aikyam. Absorbed means not just into the zone. You literally become one, merge. And this happens only through the thought, controlling the mind. For that, you need to believe there is a Brahman. If you don't have any belief there, you cannot do any of these things, right? So clearly, there is a target. Clearly, you are being asked to sharpen your mind. Clearly, you are being asked to get absorbed in the process, believe in the process, and continue to do this without break. Means constant worship. Chetasa with mind. Ayamya means having drawn. Lakshyam means the mark, the target. Vidhi here means hit. Last time we said struck, hit. Both are one and the same. So, summary meaning of this mantra is taking the bow. The bow is a mighty weapon as prescribed in the Upanishad. Fix the arrow in it, and the arrow will be rendered sharp by constant worship. So, when you say sharpened, you will ask, what do you mean by sharpened? Constant. It's just like you do something over and over again, whether it is driving, cutting a vegetable. Have you seen those people in the chef on the television, the way they cut the vegetables? Would you dare to do that on day one?
we can't.
You can't. But that action that you see live on TV is also another human being, right?
Yeah,
So, which you believe that you can never do it, you will never dare to do it, is being done by another fellow human being. Only difference is you can do it too, provided you concentrate and focus. You do it every day. You do it every day, and you will see automatically you'll be able to do it with ease. So that is the point that is being talked about. Sharpening means constantly keep at it. Same thing with meditation, focus, concentration, everything. You practice it, it will be very difficult in the beginning. But as you do it day after day, you will see yourself progressing. And there are many techniques that many people use. Some use the candle flame, right? You start focusing on the candle with the flame. Slowly, you will learn to ignore the candle. You'll just focus on the flame. Slowly, you'll get into the tip of the flame. So, there are several techniques that you can read online how to do meditation or how to focus. So, having drawn in it with the mind absorbed in his thought, In Tamil, they say, Bhagavanoda aikyamaidungo அப்படின்னு. So here you merge yourself or absorb yourself in the thought of the Brahman. A good example could be Arjun when he distinguished himself from the rest of the students. When Dronacharya asked, "What do you see?" He didn't say, "I see the parrot or the tree." He could see only the eyes. Correct? So that is what is being talked about. So mind absorbed in his thought hit that mark, and the mark is imperishable Brahman. Indirectly, we are again saying, don't get caught into the materialistic aspect or the gross aspects of everything that you see around you, the luxury, the desires and the attractions and attachments. Get out of it and just focus and concentrate your power onto that one Brahman. So sharpening of the mind means purification of the mind from all these unnecessary thoughts or distractions, which is what the meaning of having drawn into. So get away from the clutches of the sensory organs. Again, if it becomes easy, if you watch those television serials, you will see somebody standing like this in meditation in tapas, and you'll see ants and everything moving on the body of the person, and the person doesn't sense it because they have controlled their senses. If an ant gets on your body, immediately you'll feel something and you'll try to focus and distract, right? They don't, because they have controlled their senses. So you're getting away from the realm of the sensory organs, because your focus is on there's only one God and God alone is important. The next mantra again is in the same principle, so that's why I want to take all the three mantras together. Pranavo dhanuhu sharo hyatma brahma tallakshyamuthyate. Pranavo dhanuhu sharo hyatma brahma tallakshyamuthyate. Apramattena vedhavyam sharavattanmayo bhavet. Apramattena vedhavyam sharavattanmayo bhavet. Individual words are pranavo, dhanuhu, sharo, hya atma, brahma, tal, lakshyam, uchyate. Apramattena vedhavyam sharavat tanmayo bhavet. Here pranava means referencing to Om, correct. Pranava means Om. Dhanuhu is bow. Sharaha is arrow. We know that already. He is used as indeed. Atma or Atman. Here the Atman is referring to what? Paramatma or Jivatma? Jivatma, correct. Brahma is Brahman. Lakshyam means mark. Uchyate means is said to be. Uchyate means is said to be. Apramattena means carefully. Apramattena means carefully. Tat lakshyam is that mark. Vedhavyam, we have already understood the meaning of it, means should be hit or struck. Sharavat is like the arrow. Tanmayaha is again absorbed in him or one with it. Bhavet means must become. So if I summarize this, it is Pranava or Om is the bow. The arrow indeed is the Atman, and Brahman is said to be its mark. Carefully, that mark has to be hit, and one has to become absorbed in him, just like the arrow at one with its mark. So, if in case you're finding it difficult to understand, watch any of the sports competition, the archery competitions. One thing which is important for the person to hit the mark is a mind concentration, right tool, right body, right balance, controlling the vitals so that your body is not shaking constantly. And if you know the basics, if you're going to be a surgeon, the first test that they give you to see whether you're fit to be a surgeon is to keep your hand like this. If you keep your hand like this, you will see it'll keep on moving. They won't allow you to become a surgeon because you're not fit for that. This hand has to be steady. So how do you do that? If you and I cannot keep it steady, somebody else is doing it. It means they're able to control their breath. What makes your breath go uneven? It's the mind. If your mind is calm, your breath will be stable. If your mind is either too happy, excited, or depressed, anxiety creeps in, you start getting breathlessness. So that's a direct control of your breathing pattern with your mind. That is where people say, even when we start the class with the dhyana shloka, the purpose is forget everything that you were doing prior to that, 5 minutes prior to that. Right now, for the next 1 hour, focus in the class, which means again, get your mind under control. Everything will become calm. All of that is good. But then, when they take the position with the bow and the arrow, they will see the target at the tip of the arrow. When they align, right, they will see the target at the tip of the arrow. They won't see the target above or below. And you can see this aspect of human behavior and ability in many places. Take, for example, if you guys have gone for skiing. I know in India it's very difficult, but for those who have traveled abroad, if you've been to skiing, the first lesson that they teach you in the training slope is when you put the skis on, they will say, don't look sideways. And when the trainer says, don't look sideways, you can watch many people sliding sideways and falling. The reason is we are trained to do exactly what the trainer says, don't do it. So, this component called mind is extremely powerful. So, our entire system, all the scriptures and everything that we talk about is all training us to gain control on the mind. That is the answer, Sonalji, to your question, and also to Padmaja. How? Understand mind, understand what throws this mind off, and try to gain control over every element, not just one or two. There is no compromise of saying, oh, out of 10, I have controlled 6. Am I not doing good? No, sorry. Unless you control all the 10, you will not be on target. Right? Imagine you want to go to VT, to Masgaon Docks. You board a train in Mumbai and you end up in Churchgate. I don't think you'll be happy because it will put you off by another 2 hours to reach Masgaon Docks. So if you want to go to VT, you need to go to VT. That is the concept that you need to understand. So carefully means being free from all excitement caused by the thirst for enjoyment of the objects of senses. I will repeat this sentence 2 times so that whenever you ask the question, how will I still don't understand, means you have not paid attention to these 3 mantras. carefully in this mantra is free from all excitement caused by the thirst for enjoyment of the objects of senses. So the first word that should come to your mind is austerity. So if someone shows you a gold jewelry worth 5 kilos, you don't need to get excited. Somebody tells you, oh, you are hacked about a lakh of rupees from your bank account. It shouldn't have any impact on you. So it is either of the extremes. It's not always one sided. Mind gets impacted by sorrows as well as joy. If you understand this principle, then you are in the right path. Excitement is word is used in both the context. Like, you have excitement or you lack thereof. Because either of the state will impact your mind. So, are these three mantras clear? It's clear, right? Now, Sonalji, you can put your camera a little down, slightly, because my neck started paining. Yeah, good. So, little bit more explanation. You understood the different schools of philosophies. 6 schools. We talked about duality. We talked about non-duality. We talked about Shiva. We talked about Vishnu, right? When we refer to the Brahman in the Dvaita and Visishtadvaita, that Purusha or Brahman is referred to as Vishnu. In the Advaita school, the reference is to Shiva. Okay? So far, so good? Okay. So, they're all talking of the same, but there is a subtle difference, is what I said, right? Here in the Advaita school, nothing is Sat. It's all Asat. Because this cannot be considered as Sat. It didn't exist before the molding in the machine and the filling of the liquid. It will not exist after you consume the liquid inside and you throw it into the recycle bin. So, in the context of Sat and Asat, that is the difference. But to you and I, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, we are talking of the bottle and the liquid inside, correct? So, you can choose either of the philosophies that you want to follow, and you call that supreme power as Shiva or Vishnu, it does not matter. Sonalji, are you with me so far? Okay. I'm going to introduce one more term, and let me see how many of you know it. Maybe Padmaja will know it because I would have explained in some other class that she attends. How many of you have heard the word Shanmada Bhedam? How many of you have heard the term Panchayatanam? You're on mute. You can unmute yourself.
Panchayatanam, the Panchayatam Puja, the Shankaracharya's daughters.
Good. Go one step lower. No. Now you're into the deep study of Upanishad, so you need to go deeper.
The 5 gods.
Yeah.
Shakti, Shiva, Ganpati.
Slow, one by one, because others might be hearing it for the first time.
Shiva, Shakti, Ganesha, Kartikeya, Vishnu, and also Surya is also considered a part of it.
Correct.
I think you have explained in one of the classes.
Yes.
Wherein you told that Adi Shankara was instrumental in getting this because there was a lot of fights happening
Yes.
between the Jains and the Hindus. include the Shaivites and Vaishnavites and all that. And he said that in the east they worship Shakti, in the north they worship Shiva, in the south they worship Kartikeya, in the west they Ganesha. So he incorporated all these things and incorporated Surya also and created it. So as per your predominance, whichever you believe, you put that in the center and other four in the
Correct.
four corners.
Perfect. Spot on. Now, Sanjay and Sonalji, you all will know how much I have to be under pressure when I'm on this side of the camera with Usha on that side. She repeated verbatim of everything that I said. Right? Brilliant, brilliant. So, I just wanted to bring that back in this context. So, for a moment, from a layman's perspective, I said whether you think of Shiva or Vishnu, doesn't matter. The principle is the same. Extend that logic to say, I can imagine the Purusha to be Ganesha, I can imagine the Purusha to be Shakti, I can imagine the Purusha to be Kartikeya. Make sense? Does it change or alter your tools or methodology? If you worship a male god or a female goddess, still the principle is the same, right? So, when you talk of all these philosophies come from evolution of newer principles because some set of people didn't quite connect with the principle that existed in their era. Adi Shankaracharya was way before Madhvacharya, right? So, what was the need for him to come up with a philosophy? Because there are certain things that he didn't connect with or agree with. He looked at the same thing in a different way. So, he explained it, and there are a bunch of people that followed. They said, that makes sense to me. And if you don't quite get what I'm saying, go talk to a die-hard Vaishnavite and tell them to chant Rudram. They believe it's a sin. No, it's not a joke. I mean, it's okay. That's how people are. Not all five fingers are the same. So, over the period of time, there were different schools of thoughts in different centuries, different eras that evolved. So, if I just summarize all those schools and evolution of principles and philosophies, it may run into about 10 pages, just the name. So, we don't need to get into that level of detail. So, all you need to understand is when you get into the Shakta philosophy, they believe everything is because of Shakti. Everything. But if you go into that Shakta or Tantra, there is pure Shakti, there is pure Shiva, where people see Shakti in Shiva and they believe that Shiva created Shakti to create this whole cosmos in union. And there are people who just purely believe everything is Shiva. Shakti is just a manifestation or representation. But ultimately, here when you talked about in the three mantras, the aim is to find out the tools by which you are able to achieve what you want to achieve. What you want to achieve is realize that Brahman, realize that ultimate truth. And in order to do that, you need tools to sharpen yourself and equip yourself. Those tools are described in the Sri Vidya Tantra. And if you remember, I told you there in that, let's call it as a gym for a change. So if it is easier to remember and understand. We believe in the Shat Chakra philosophy. We believe Shakti resides in the Mooladhara, Shiva resides in the Sahasrara. And through meditation, through various tools of nyasams and chanting of mantras and meditation, mudras, you rise the Kundalini from Mooladhara to Sahasrara. And as soon as you reach here, you would have hit the liberation point. Do you remember, Sonalji? I had described in one of the class. So imagine the principle is you want to achieve liberation, and liberation is like realization of Vishnu, for example. How to do that is Upasana. Right now I used Shakti and Shiva. You can replace that with any other name, but the principle and the mechanism still remains the same. So philosophy is one in terms of science or a branch that teaches you certain things in terms of theory. Upasana is like your lab or a gym where you go and say, okay, in the gym everybody has got dumbbells and barbells and treadmills and everything. But some may do bench press, some may do just arms, some may do just shoulders. What you do there is up to you. And depending on what you do and how you do, either you will get a nice uniform chiseled body, or you can see some people, suddenly their arms will be absolutely muscular, but rest of the body will be out of shape. It means they focus only on the dumbbells, much more than thighs or calves or glutes. So tools are out there. The science of the philosophy is out there. It's up to you to say, okay, now I understand this, I'm more comfortable here, and I will take this path and reach my goal. Does it help you get in the context? Sonalji is still not sure. Says, yeah, good try, but I'll reserve my opinion for next class.
No, I put that.
Yeah, so think over this, whatever I shared today. If you still have questions, then we will go deeper in the next class. So, any other question on Sat Asat?
No, here the analogy of the various gym materials is to various gods then.
Various gym material is through is a reference to just yoga or Parayanam with mantra or Havana, Abhisheka, Tarpana.
Okay, that way.
Huh.
Not that other issues. Okay.
You can probably consider, I mean, it's a very, very bad example, but still, if it is just helping you, the different gods could be the different muscles, deltoids and biceps, triceps, etc. If your ultimate aim is a well-chiseled body as a Brahman, you need all those deltoids, calf muscles, glutes. They are the individual devatas. So you realize each of those parts. Ultimately, you are going towards the final realization. Does it help? Padmaja has probably missed. Maybe she lost her connectivity. So just go through the video one more time and see whether it falls in place. I've tried my best to connect all the dots again one more time in a different approach or different context today. My closing point again is start the practice of controlling the mind by saying, okay, when I'm talking about this, I will just focus on understanding that. Instead of saying I'm listening to you, but my mind is working on something else. If you put that into practice, you will see a lot of difference. And pause. see whether you really understand the meaning of that word that is being used in a sentence. And if you don't, that means you're losing a lot of meaning or explanation that is out there, which is what is making it difficult for you. Otherwise, if you pause and parse each and every sentence of what I've said today, you'll probably find some of the answers to the questions that you have: the hows and whys and will, etc. And at the end of the day, remember the Bhagavad Gita thing. Karmanyevadhikarasya mahaphaleshu kadachana. You keep doing your duty and don't worry about the result. Why I said admit to her, I don't know. Yeah, in case all of you are having difficulty in joining like this in the meeting, right, please check whether you have signed in with your Google account. Because if you have signed in with your Google account, you don't need to be admitted into the meeting. Automatically, you will be there. So, for example, now the pop-up came as admit. Moment I said admit, nothing happened. And she must be struggling to join the meeting.
I think when they start on the Google Chrome files, there is that app icon.
Yeah.
Click on that, you go to calendar. Calendar, it is already there. The notification.
Exactly.
Click on the calendar notification, you automatically join.
Exactly. That is because in the you have received, you're clicking on your calendar, which you have received the invite from me. So you're an authorized invitee in the meeting. That's how you get in. So anytime you are struggling to join means you have not signed in. That's the point I'm trying to make. Yeah. And or we are used to having many Gmail accounts, or sometimes we share devices with our spouse and children. They would have logged in with their account. So just because you see Google Calendar or me doesn't mean it is your ID. It could be somebody's ID. So go to the profile and you have the option to switch accounts. So that is the solution to the problem. Great. I think we are on target. It's exactly about 7:04, 1 hour. So any questions, shoot. I'm still working on this, the audio part of it, which I will do. As I shared the flyer, etc., I've been working very deeply into organizing some event, including the whole technology setup, etc., that took a lot of my time. So before next week, I'll try to push some of these things, including the audio file with the tune for chanting the Mundaka Upanishad. Excellent. Have a great day. Stay safe. See you in the next class.